Call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone. Please be aware RMB Council meetings are live streamed to Facebook.com/Belfast PEI. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that the land upon which our organization stands is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. Abequate PEI Mi'kmaq is covered by the historic treaties of peace and friendship. We pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who have occupied this land for over 12,000 years, past, present, and future. Do any members of council have a conflict of interest with any items on today's agenda? Any other suggested items for today's meeting?
Mr. Mayor, we have under item number 15, there were a number of items that were suggested. A was the CPHO Live Well PEI Community Consultation Report. Then there's a community pantry update. There will be C has been changed from Belfast Home and School Meetings Update to a simple discussion on roles of council members attending meetings. D is Federation of PEI Municipalities Update. E is Report on RMB's Family Skate. F is Update on Hunting Concern. G is BCDC New Housing Project for Belfast. And one that's not on the agenda already is an invitation for someone from council to speak at the Selkirk Millennium Club on February 21. Those are all the things that I know about.
Anybody else got anything to add, Catherine?
I have two items. So the 2024 meeting schedule, I just have something to bring up. And then the second item is school age childcare project and childcare update.
Sorry, what was the second one?
School age childcare project.
Okay. Okay.
May I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented and amended? Moved by Tricia.
I'll second.
Second by who? Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. Okay, RCMP report of the month of November and December, presented by Staff Sergeant Robinson.
Ashley will speak to that.
Oh, Staff Sergeant Ashley.
No, Staff Sergeant Robinson couldn't make it this evening. He had something come up at the last minute. However, he did provide us with the reports for November and December. So I've included those in your packages to review. And if you have any questions, you can email me and or Sergeant Robinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Presentations on Belfast Area Watershed Group, planning for nature, climate in our municipality. Sherry Pelkey will introduce Julie Lynn. I don't know how to say that.
Sahavage.
Okay, Sahavage with PEI Forest, Fish and Wildlife, and Janice Harper of Land Planning. Go.
If you wanted to bring anybody else up beside you with the chairs, feel free.
You're not in the shop.
I'll just stand. Yeah, we'll just stand over here. First, I want to say Happy New Year and thank you for giving us some
time this evening to present. This presentation aims to showcase how further protecting our natural environment helps keep our rural vibrancy. Conserving nature while adapting to climate change is necessary for that rural vibe to exist. Our intention tonight is for council and residents and those that are online to understand why our recommendations that we're going to present tonight, we hope they will be considered for the official plan and the zoning bylaws, and also look at how we can work together to make this happen. So I have some partners tonight that will be presenting. They're subject matter experts on behalf of Belfast Watershed Group. Online, one of our partners who helped with this presentation tonight, but she's just online, is Karen Potter, and she is a conservation coordinator with Environment and Climate Change Canada. She works throughout Atlantic Canada to support biodiversity, species at risk, and nature conservation initiatives. Since 2020, she's been working with many partners to conserve biodiversity and forested landscapes as part of the PEI Forested Landscape Priority Place program, which tonight's presentation is part of that big program. So it's a federal program that we're working through. Another partner tonight is Julie Lynn, and she's a forest conservation specialist with the Forest, Fish, and Wildlife Division of the PEI Department of Environment, Energy, and Climate Action. In this role, she coordinates the PEI Forested Landscape Priority Place for Species at Risk initiative, which is a program jointly led with the Canadian Wildlife Service that aims to improve conservation outcomes for biodiversity, species at risk, and forest habitats in PEI. And the second speaker this evening will be Janice Harper, and she's a registered professional planner with a wide range of experience at all levels of government, both as an employee and as a consultant, with extensive experience at the municipal and provincial levels. She has worked on PEI for over 20 years and has developed official plans and bylaws for numerous communities. She continues to work as a planning consultant with We6 Planning Group. And as you can see, there's a lot of people that are involved in the background with this presentation tonight. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Julie Lynn.
No, I'm okay. I just want to say I'm going to maybe cough throughout this. I just got over pneumonia. Do you want me to get this? You should get the mic. Okay. So I'm not contagious.
Do you want to have her get your water? She has one. So. Just in case.
Okay, thanks, Sherry. I'm Julie Lynn, and I work with PEI Fish and Wildlife. And we're here today to talk to you about how municipalities can include natural area conservation in their official plans, bylaws, and processes. So just to mention the Forested Landscape Priority Place, we call it the FLPP for short, because it's quite a long title. It's jointly led by Environment and Climate Change Canada and PEI Fish and Wildlife. And we are, through this project, we've identified residential development and roads as a pressure on forested landscapes in PEI. And so because of this, we've got this project on the go with the Federation of PEI Municipalities. And the goal of the project is to provide information and best practices to municipalities like yourselves while you're developing your official plans, bylaws, and the processes that go with them. So the purpose of this presentation, this might happen throughout, is to share with you why forest and natural area conservation is important at a municipal level. And I'm going to show you some maps to give you an idea of some of the information that Fish and Wildlife can provide to you to inform your municipal plans and bylaws and processes. And Janice is going to share some examples of how you can do that. So just first of all, why are forests important? They are our most biodiverse habitats in PEI. They are home to over 60 migratory birds that come here in the spring and raise their young. They're home to hundreds of species of amphibians, reptiles, mammals, lichens, mosses, etc. So they are very important to wildlife. They're also very important to humans because they provide a lot of ecosystem services, including cleaning our air and water, mitigating climate change, buffering against storms, providing firewood and places to recreate. So they're very important to wildlife and to humans. They also help us, or conserving forests also help us meet many local, provincial, federal, and international goals, including some of them that were identified in PEI's Climate Adaptation Plan and in the Net Zero framework that the province introduced last year. They also help us meet, or conserving forests also help us meet some of these international goals like the UN Global Biodiversity Framework goals to conserve 30% of Canada's land, marine, and coastal areas by 2030. So how much forest cover do you need? This is a document that was published by Environment and Climate Change Canada, and it estimates that 50% or greater forest cover at a watershed scale equates to a low-risk approach to biodiversity conservation, so that will likely support most native species and healthy aquatic systems, whereas 30% forest cover at a watershed scale is like a minimum threshold that will support healthy levels of plants and animals, and is actually a high-risk approach that may only support half of the potential species that could be there and only marginally healthy aquatic systems. So if we think about how much forest cover, I'll go to the next one actually, that how much forest cover is in Belfast, and actually most of our watersheds within your municipal boundary do have greater than 50% forest cover, which is great. And we want to maintain that forest cover. And you're actually doing better than most areas in PEI. As you can see, most of the central region has less than 30%, and some of those areas with really heavy agriculture are really below 40 and below 30%. So Belfast is doing great, and we want to keep on that track. So the next few slides are some maps that I'm going to show you that we have developed and that you can access to help you inform your official planning, inform your bylaw development, and inform your decision-making processes. So the first one is just land use. This is the 2020 Corporate Land Use Inventory, and it really highlights all of the green, that's forest. The yellow is agriculture, so there's quite a lot of agriculture in there. And apologies, I meant to add percentages in here, but you can kind of see that there is a lot of forest, there's some agriculture, there's quite a bit of residential development, especially along roads, and in the Point Prim area, of course. So just to give you an idea of land use in the municipality. This is a map of interior forest. So interior forest we define as any forest that's 120 meters from an edge. And so interior forest is actually quite important for some species that rely on large tracts of forest or that are sensitive to edge. And that includes barred owls or pileated woodpeckers. And Belfast actually has quite a lot of interior forest. So certainly something that we would love to maintain and to help you with that. This is a, well, it's not showing up right now, but it's a map of wetlands, which is something that you already have in your official plan, so not anything really new. This next map is a map of unplowed land. So unplowed land is land that has never been turned over for agriculture. The trees may have been cut at one time, but the seedbed and the soil has never been removed or disturbed. So these are actually areas that are often supporting rare species, rare native plants, and they also have the pit and mound topography that supports these other sort of important ecological features like vernal pools. So Belfast, again, has quite a lot of it, which is really nice to see, and something we'd love to see conserved.
Question for you.
Yeah.
It seems like when we were looking at the forest or even the interior forest, there was a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
You would expect that, and where there's like interior forest would be unplowed land. Is that not how it works?
No, I mean, most of PEI was plowed at one point, but the forest has grown up.
Okay.
These are areas that have never been plowed, and often they're in like steep slopes and around
Right.
rivers
Okay.
because they couldn't plow them, of course.
And so, what kind of records are kept in order to verify that, or is it just based upon the fact that you can't farm it, so it's never been?
This layer is from the 1930s orthos map, so it's based on what forests have never been removed. So like looking through time,
Okay.
they've always been forest.
Okay.
That's how this was derived.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And just stop me anytime if there's other questions. This is a map of protected areas. So protected areas are parts of properties that have been protected under the Natural Areas Protection Act or the Wildlife Conservation Act. They can be owned by private landowners, government, groups like Island Nature Trust or nature conservancies. Can also be owned by municipalities. So something to consider there. And this is the same map with rare species occurrences over top. So just to show you that, yes, there are a lot of rare species within our protected areas, but there's also a great opportunity to work with private landowners because a number of these rare species occurrences are outside of protected areas. And so when we talk about conserving species at risk and rare species, it's very critical that we consider working with private landowners as well. This is a map, habitat suitability map for Canada warbler, which is the bird you see on the left. They are a species of special concern in Canada, and they breed in wet forests. And so this model here shows you where they are most likely to be found or where their habitat is most likely to be found. So the red squares are where they're very likely, and then yellow, they're also very likely. And so you can see that Canada warbler is most likely to be found in this Wood Islands area because there's an abundance of wet forests. So we have these models for a number of different species. The other one I'll show you today is Eastern wood pewee, which is, again, the bird on the left. They're another species of special concern, and they like to use mature deciduous forest that has an open understory. And of course, there's a lot of that in Belfast, so you can see that your area actually supports, or probably very likely supports, lots of eastern wood pewees. And this is another bird species, Alosadid flycatcher. They're not as common, so you can see their habitat's a little scattered, but they like edges, and so they could very likely be found in the Belfast area as well. So just to show you that Belfast can play a role in protecting species at risk habitat. The next couple slides are the last ones I'll share, and then I'll hand it over to Janice. But just to show you that there are species as well that have critical habitat identified in the Belfast municipality, and critical habitat has a very specific definition. For species at risk, critical habitat is that habitat that supports the survival and recovery of species, and it's identified in federal documents, recovery strategies, and action plans. And so there is critical habitat that's been identified for 2 species in PEI, or in Belfast. The first is the bank swallow, which I'm sure you're probably all familiar with. They're the very cute little birds that burrow into our cliffs, and you'll see them on the coast. So there's quite a lot of critical habitat in the Belfast area, around Point Prim and in Wood Islands. Not sure what's going on with this presentation. And so we have bank swallow critical habitat, and we also have some piping plover critical habitat around the Wood Islands area on that beach at the end of McLeod Road. So just to show that there are very important areas within your municipality and species at risk that could benefit from conservation. And I'll hand it over to Janice.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them, but in the provincial legislation, is there any acts that are specific to Fish and Wildlife Division that deal with these issues?
We administer the Environmental Protection Act, which is about sort of protecting wetlands and different sort of habitat types that include sand dunes, wetlands. We also have the Wildlife Conservation Act, which protects various different species. There is an opportunity to list species at risk. There hasn't been any listed to date. And of course, the Natural Areas Protection Act is another act that we administer.
So would it just be a matter, do I understand correctly, it would just be a matter of identifying those species that you mentioned and have them incorporated into the act as threatened species?
Well, some of these birds are protected under the Migratory Birds Convention Act. So they are protected in some cases. It's a little more complicated. I mean, that act has existed for a long time and species have never been listed. So I don't know how to go forward on that, but I mean, I think there's room to grow there, but I don't think that they've gotten to that point yet. I know it came up in the legislature a few years ago about the Species at Risk Act or having a dedicated one, but so far that hasn't happened.
Wouldn't it be more appropriate for a federal legislation, provincial legislation to cover this rather than municipal?
Well, they do cover the protection of this.
So it's already covered then?
Yes, but at a municipal level, these birds are not protected on private land. So at a municipality level, there's an opportunity to encourage more protection by private landowners, which we don't actually have control over.
Because on Prince Edward Island, almost all the land is privately owned.
That's right.
Not owned by the province.
That's right.
So none of this stuff is protected then?
No.
And do we have the right as a municipality to put those protections on our private landowners?
Well,
Why wouldn't the province do it?
well, so what we're here to talk about tonight is the fact that when land is subdivided at a municipal level, so the municipality is the planning authority, and when land is subdivided, the municipality has the authority to take parkland. And typically, we've thought about parkland as a place for swing sets or ball fields, maybe trails. But this project kind of identified a gap, and the gap is, as you've pointed out, what can be done at the municipal level. So the municipality can take parkland as conservation land, and it can designate that land as natural area, which isn't contrary to being like a trail. Like a trail can be in a natural area as well. But it's kind of, the idea of the project is to expand at a municipal level the concept of what a park is, and to bring in that natural area, alongside, potential to use land, municipal parkland as like ball field land or trails or swing sets, to also have natural areas. And it's a gap that was identified, and the municipality has authority and the ability to designate land, and then there's a space, like then the land is a space where the habitat could thrive.
Sounds like it's getting fairly complicated. I think I'd rather see the province do that than have to have us doing it. I don't want to be telling my neighbor that he can't do something on his property.
No, this isn't about telling someone they can't do something. This is when land is subdivided, municipalities take a percentage of the land. So your draft official plan states that when land is going to be subdivided, the municipality takes a percentage of that land as parkland.
Those discussions will happen when we do our official plan discussions and development bylaw. But you're right to point out that that's one of the options open to
It's one of the options. It's one of the options out there. Yeah, it's one of the options. And just to back up for a little bit, like the province of PEI has been very diligent in collecting data and has been doing flyover maps for flyover pictures of PEI since the 1930s. So there actually is nice historical data of what the land use was from the 1930s on, and they've continued to build on that and to develop a lot of GIS information and data on what the land use is and the changes over time. So there's actually a lot of information available to us, but we don't tend to use it, and we don't tend to use it when we're trying to make decisions about what to do with land, because it's becoming, with GIS, it's becoming more user-friendly as time goes on, and certainly with climate change and sea level rise and potential for flooding, there's more resources going into mapping and making the mapping easier to access, and and that's primarily the province owns most of the data, but they are making it easier for municipalities to access, and for individuals or individual landowners to access that information as well. Yeah.
So question for you,
Yeah.
and maybe you'll cover it
Yeah.
later on, which is fine.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this, this opportunity that the municipality has the authority to designate parkland, what does that mean? Does it mean that the municipality owns it?
Yes. So typically when I wrote years ago. I wrote the official plan for Eastern Kings. As Kensington, different places, but in Eastern Kings. So when let's say a cottage subdivision is going to be developed, the official plan will state that parkland can be taken. And then when the bylaw has the details of how that's going to happen, and they have the authority, and typically they take a percentage of land, and then it's owned by the municipality. Typically, it's owned by the municipality. Yeah. And then that ownership, getting back to your earlier point, that ownership is kind of a control point, because if the municipality owns it, then it can more easily state what's going to happen, in addition to what I'm suggesting, which is parkland designation.
So,
Yeah,
you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the case where you're creating a new official plan where a municipality has not got one presently, then when you're talking about the ownership of land, most of that land is either owned by the federal government or the provincial government presently, that is available for the municipality to then take ownership of. They would have to negotiate with the province and or and or the federal government for ownership of that land, because otherwise that land is owned by private ownership.
So when a private landowner wants to develop a subdivision, so let's say you have 10 acres and you want to
Sure.
develop a subdivision, bylaws typically state that the municipality can take up to 10%. It can be more, but typically they state the municipality can take 10% of the land being subdivided as amenity space.
Okay, I understand
Yeah.
where you're going.
Yeah, so it's not, so a portion of the land is carved, is kind of carved off.
Right.
And oftentimes it will be around, sometimes it's a park, like a, place for a park space,
Playground or whatever.
playground or park space, but what we'd like to talk about today is there potential for expanded buffers, to create a park around a wetland and to make an expanded buffer, or, so maybe we'll get into the rest of the presentation, we'll just talk a little, I don't want to get ahead because there's a lot of questions.
No, that clarified it well, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but doesn't the Provincial Planning Act already make provision for that when you're developing subdivision?
They do, but so if you're a municipality with an official plan and a bylaw, you're the planning authority, and if you don't have an official plan and a bylaw, the province is the planning authority. So yes, the province does do that. But the province, it's a different process, and we're here today to talk about we were asked to talk about the municipal process, so
Yeah.
I can talk about that if you want, but.
No, that's good, thank you.
Okay. So this slide talks about how development is a pressure on PEI, and where we have, let's say, a forest that goes on and on. Of course, if you have a road or if you have houses and buildings, that kind of breaks up the forest, and it breaks up the continuity of the forest and thus the habitat. So both residential development and transportation corridors, such as roads, break up the continuous forest, and that's a threat to habitat. So here are some examples of negative impacts both residential development and transportation corridors have on habitat. So they break it up, and then let's say the animals or the birds are at risk because they're coming into contact with let's say people, or more often motor vehicles that kill them. So this slide is getting back to our earlier question, and it simply states municipalities have the opportunity and the power to make long-term decisions to help address habitat fragmentation. So as official plans are developed with related maps, because the official plan has a long-term map and the bylaw has a zoning map. So they kind of have a different function. Like the official plan is more of a long-term general map, and the bylaw is more specific. So at a municipal level, official plans can support natural area conservation. They can identify and label habitat for species at risk. So for example, Eastern Kings has some important bird areas, and they're labeled on the long-term map, or they were labeled. I don't know what the new plan has, but the older plan had these habitat areas labeled on the map. And also, official plans can direct development away from habitat. So if there's a known area, it can be, there can be statements saying that we know that this area exists, for example, important bird area, and we're going to direct development away from that. Another way to protect habitat is to have expanded buffers, like just to have the 15-meter buffer, like that works in some situations, but expanded buffers, and again referring to Eastern Kings, they have an expanded buffer in some places. So, and that land remains privately owned, by the way. It's not parkland, but it's just an expanded buffer, and so there's just more protection. Also, the official plan can help plan for natural areas in development. So ahead of any development, the rules are kind of laid out, or the approach is kind of laid out. So then, when a bylaw is developed after the official plan, then at a more detailed level, the bylaw is developed, and that helps to implement the vision from the official plan. So examples of bylaws that can support the official plan are subdivision bylaws, and development bylaws. So subdivision, of course, is the process, outlining the process for when land is subdivided, and development is similar, outlining the process for when development happens. What are the setbacks? That's a big one. What are the setbacks? How far away do you have to be from the road and from the property lines? And oftentimes these rules are related to health and public safety. Like, is there safe access? Could fire or emergency first responders access the building? Is it safe? Those are the kinds of things that we see in the subdivision bylaw. And then we have the process of administering the land use. So as the bylaw is administered, that is when, so as land is being subdivided, so we have the rules, or we have the guidance, and then we have the actual what's happening, how are the decisions made. And this is when decisions come before council, and council has a process that it goes through, but then it can adhere to provincial and federal legislation, and usually this is outlined in the official plan on the bylaw. Like, it's all there in your guidebook. But then decisions are made, and this is where having people who are very familiar with the local area can make a difference. So in an instance where you have a watershed that is very well aware of maybe where habitat might exist, they can provide expertise to council or to the committee that's making the decision, and also they can access through Julie Lynn's department, like Forest, Fish and Wildlife. It could be watershed group, it could be the responsibility of someone on council or a committee, but there is information that is accessible and that can be used to help inform the process of decision making, so that people can decide, oh, is this the best configuration for the subdivision, or is there a habitat here that we would really want to know about? Is there a wetland here? So just taking information in to help make an informed decision. And so we did look at your draft official plan and did kind of have some ideas about what's next. And we did note that the draft plan does say there is protection of natural and built heritage, and the draft official plan does have a wildlife habitat policy. The draft plan does have designation and land use policies, and it does mention parks, open space, and recreation land. So there is clearly someone, this is on the table, or it's up for consideration. I just wanted to step back a bit and note that there's a lot of legislation, as we started to talk about, that is pointing to protecting natural areas. Of course, there's provincial legislation, there's federal legislation, as Julie Lynn has mentioned, and in particular, the municipality does have a role because you're here, and and part of that decision point for the municipality is what to include in an official plan, and what is the process for identifying if there are habitat areas, and if interested, maybe designating some of these natural areas, and what is the process of subdividing land, and is there going to be an approach to that? The municipality there are resources, like we're a resource because we're working on a project right now, and there are many partners in conservation, in conservation. And I think this kind of goes over what we talked about already, and it's just asking a lot of questions. So getting back to the resources, there are subject matter experts at Forest, Fish and Wildlife who can help with inventory of land, determining existing land use, identifying parcel ownership, drafting maps, and also the Federation of PEI Municipalities is a partner, and Federation of PEI Municipalities already has developed a guide for municipalities. It's kind of an intro to developing official plans and bylaws for natural areas, and this project is kind of the next stage of that project. And of course the BOG is a resource, and more of a resource, I think, as time goes on. And I think that's it. So don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we're interested. Part of this project is to help the municipality at the next at the next stage or at the next level. So if the municipality is interested, we're here as part of the project.
If I can, so as far as the municipality goes, we will be starting up the process again to complete the official plan and development bylaw. The information will be on the website, and as we get more and more information, it's all going to be going on the website. All the information is public, and certainly we invite any comments from anybody really, but in particular from BOG to comment on the official plan and development bylaw to see if there's any suggestions that may come out of that organization. And we put that same invitation out to all the groups and all the residents. So.
Lovely, that's wonderful. I guess what we're thinking is that we have to decide, so we're kind of finishing up our phase 1 of this project, and we're looking at phase 2, and for phase 2 we're looking for partners who are interested in participating. We're not saying you need to do this or you need to do that, but we kind of have to decide where to focus our energy. And Julie Lynn and I were talking on the way up about how, we do have resources that are available, but we could have more dedicated resources if the municipality was interested in partnering with the pilot project. So that's up for you to decide though, if you want to go a little bit further or not. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And when do you need that decision?
I'd say
Now?
no, next month, like maybe next month or so. What do you think?
Yeah.
End of March.
Do you have an official proposal that you can send us?
I can.
And that would also outline what that partnership would look like?
Yeah.
And then I can, once we get it, I can send it off to council, and then if we get it quick enough, we can put it on the next agenda.
Okay. Yeah, and it's really not an ask for an outcome, it's just an ask to participate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So if you have an official proposal, that'd be appreciated.
Okay, it'll be very short.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice and Julie Lynn.
Thank you.
And Sherry's got some more.
Thank you very much. I'm just gonna go over your head here.
Andy? Andy, got anything to add?
Not at this point.
Thank you, sir.
I'll put it in writing.
Is there
Thank you very much.
any other public presentations? Mark Booth has one.
Yeah, it's not going to be a presentation, we're just going to talk about the housing. You sent me out an invite.
That'd be great, yeah.
Barry's going to do that. Just bring you up to speed.
Is this gonna be different from what's already on the agenda about BCBC?
Well, they're doing it now, so that will be redacted.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak here tonight. My name is Barry Galloway, and I'm the lead staff with the Belfast Community Development Corporation. I guess this project certainly is something that the BCDC has been thinking about for some time. We actually had planned to start it last year, but with Hurricane Fiona, it really took, as we all took a hit, but the golf course and campground took a significant hit, and we had basically $350,000 in damages, and we're still working on it, actually trying to clear everything. But right now seems to be an apt time to seize this project and move forward. When the board is deciding on projects, they ask themselves basically 3 questions. Will the project benefit the community is number 1, is there a need for it? Will it create more opportunities for residents? Will it create more economic opportunities and employment opportunities, that sort of thing? And is the project sustainable? Sustainability is certainly a key piece here. There are many projects that have come across the board table, and lots of them with great value, but the sustainability piece is really a key piece. Right now, I want to talk about kind of where we are. So we've begun discussions with potential funders. We've talked to a few different people. It's really about gathering information at this point. They're helping us to identify the types of information that they require, what we need to put in our business plan, all those sorts of components. We're right now trying to source funding for an engineer and survey to be done, because that's a key piece for us to move forward in obtaining quotes for all of the work. We've talked to 3 different vendors who produce prefabricated housing. We're looking at 10 units, and kind of what we were thinking about are 2-bedroom units. However, if the municipality or anyone in the community feels that the configuration should be different, we're certainly open to those discussions. That's what we're here for tonight, is to open up that discussion and get some feedback from the municipality and from the community. So there's lots of options for change, but basically they range from $175,000 per unit to $200,000 per unit for 2-bedroom units. That would be, I think, I can't remember the space, but I think it was between 750 and 800 square feet. That's kind of the size. And we've identified a piece of land which would be what the previously known as the driving range at the golf course. And so those pieces are kind of looked at.
Sorry, I'm just to interrupt. I'm not familiar with where the old driving range was, so can you just describe that a little bit better?
It's on North Selkirk Park Road, and it's just as you're coming into the golf course.
So like that first parcel?
That first open, cleared piece of land.
Right behind that is the pool.
Yeah.
The pool and the canteen and that sort of thing. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify.
So that's actually great space for us. Of course, we don't know. I mean, once we do assessments, we need to determine whether or not water and sewer is going to be affected there. We need to look at the water table and all those sorts of things, and that's when we need to bring in an engineer to kind of look at those sorts of options. We know there's a housing crisis across Canada. PEI is not exempt from that, nor is Belfast. So we see this as something that could create some real potential here in the community. Once we get further along, our goal is that we will develop a different board to manage this. Belfast Community Development Corporation is about developing it, but then essentially it would be passed over to another board. I think that's fair to say, Mark. I don't know if there's anything I'm leaving out. We just wanted to kind of begin the discussion, and the other thing I did want to say, we're really looking at green initiatives as well. So we're exploring options for solar panels. How can we make this really a green initiative and make it more affordable for people? And we are focused on affordable housing. So that's the other key piece for us.
So your intent to have these sold, or are these rentals?
These would be rentals at this point, because that's what we're hearing is that the biggest need right now is for rental units. Although again, we're open to discussion. We had discussed the possibility of rent-to-own program, that sort of thing. And so nothing is decided at this point. As I said, we're about gathering information at this point.
What kind of vision do you have for the area? You say 10 units, so are you talking about a park, a neighborhood park, a trailer park? Well, actually, trailer park is probably a bad word, because they're now modular or manufactured homes now. Is that?
Yes, they're manufactured homes. Yeah.
But are you?
And they're different styles. They don't look like trailers. They look like homes.
Yes.
Houses.
So, and you had talked about 750 to 800 square feet. Are you looking like a neighborhood type setup where you have we'll say a cul-de-sac or something?
That's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at because it will be separated from, like, we put a fence up or something to from the campground, and so we can delineate basically. I'm assuming that's what we'll do, but again, as I said, we're gathering information and we're going to be talking to lots of different people to see what would be the best configuration.
A timeline?
Yeah, sure.
Expectations?
So in our discussions with funders, there have been some announcements, but we're anticipating new announcements coming down as of April 1st, sort of thing. So what we've been advised is to have our business plan and everything ready to go by April 1st. So that is ready for submission and kind of first to kick the can, I guess, when the funding is announced.
And my last question is, you had talked about this kicking off the public information process, and you had said that you wanted to get some input from the public about their
Certainly from the
feelings.
public
Is there,
and from the municipality, yes.
yeah, how did you envision getting the input? Are you?
We're actually hoping that you're gonna work with us on that, and maybe we can do something together to because there are other projects that we wanna look at as well. I don't wanna get into big discussion, but we do know Panett Park needs to be discussed, and I think there's an opportunity to talk about a few discussions with the public, a few projects with the public at this time. I did wanna say, we've talked to Habitat for Humanity, we've talked to experts in housing from New Brunswick, from Newfoundland, from Nova Scotia. So we're gathering as much information as we can to see how this works in other places and how it can work best for our community.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did have one other question. Water and sewer, because it's 10 units, I know that the water and sewer infrastructure that you have in that area now is probably not sufficient for
Definitely.
an additional 10 units. So what's your vision to be able to accommodate that?
Well, that's why we need to bring in an engineer to advise us on what the right thing is to do and the best way to approach that.
Okay.
I think it was Dr. Province at BCDC. I'm pretty sure CMHC offers planning service that includes engineering services.
We've been talking a lot with the CVDC as well, and they have a number of resources that we're hoping to avail.
I noticed that the first round of 2% funding was only went to, it was subscribed within a week. It was all the projects that were ready to go. And I think that the next round, if I read it right, the next round is gonna be the same thing. As the project isn't ready to go, you're gonna be.
Well, that's it. So so what they're advising us to have everything ready by
Exactly
April
the same
1.
as April 1st.
Yeah.
The other thing that kind of made me wonder a little bit was, when we're dealing with rental units, why is not considered going with an apartment building? A 2 or 3 story apartment building, either 8 or 12 unit apartment building, which is so much cheaper to build than it is to be serviced.
I don't know that we ruled it out per se, Jim, but I think,
We're trying to stay true to the community and what would look good here in the community as well. I've had some feedback from people saying, you're not building an apartment building, right? So that's why we're here today. We want to hear what people have to say. Maybe that's what people want for the community. But these units are absolutely stunning. Like the houses are really quite beautiful. As we've looked at, there's a company in Summerside and one in New Brunswick that we've been talking to as well. So it's fairly local that would be producing these. The one in New Brunswick would adhere to all PEI guidelines. And they get approval before they would even be shipped.
I see. The other question would be redundant then, if that's what you're doing, is that, I see the federal government has announced they're on a program similar to what the wartime housing program was.
Yes, yeah.
Where they've already approved a design.
A design.
And they worked them out to say this is an economical designs to build a 2-step building. Road stick building out.
Have we ruled stick building out? I think, again, as I said,
No,
we're gathering information at this point, so I don't think anything is ruled out. It's
Rob, they can build anything you want.
I mean, understanding that when we start this project, we're probably looking at something around $3 to $4 million from BCDC. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So, and we'll be funding a good portion of it. So that's us taking a mortgage. So these balances, that's what we're trying to work out.
So you work with CMHC and they're gonna be involved in this?
Yes, absolutely. We've already approached
Maybe
the
we don't want them back
Oh,
under any circumstances.
yeah.
I've dealt with them before. Okay, no, it's all.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else got any questions for,
We have a few members of the public here. Do you mind asking or answering any questions from the public?
No.
Yeah, we have one. Go ahead, Matt.
Can I take the floor?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Can you introduce yourself for the record, Matt?
Sure. Okay. My name is Matt Kenny, and I'm co-owner with Robert Hartley of Wild Pines Cabins on Lord Selkirk Park Road. wear a lot of hats. Father, husband, volunteer. You know, I see what our community. It doesn't exist without volunteers, and I got to commend everybody who volunteers. You know, I volunteer myself. I do. I'm president of RMB Soccer. We take the Belfast kids now. We have 130 kids in it. It's a good success. I also volunteer with the Belfast Historical Society in the Croft House next door. We started building our business, and I see a lot of value in arts and recreation, history, and yeah, and just wanted to help them. They have you know, property issues and things, and I'm you know, a strong back, and I'd like to help them. And I volunteer with that, and I also volunteer with the Town and Country Aquatic Plus, where I've been on the board of directors for 4 years now. And you know, I've learned a lot about how these boards work, and a lot of things in Kings County really depends on volunteers. Yeah. So you know, I guess to start with, in respect to the development, we're talking about developing parkland. So it's our public parkland. We just heard how it's all privately owned on BEI. We don't have much public land. The little bit of land we do, you know, it's hard to access. We have Pinette Park, we have Lord Selkirk Park, we have Northumberland Park, and these are places where you can take, we have the Confederation Trail, and these are places where you can take your kids, and you can enjoy wildlife, you can enjoy the outdoors, you can, there's a lot of fields, there's a lot of land, but you know, by rights, you're not really allowed to go on farmers' land and traipse around, and you're not allowed to go on other people's properties. So, with respect to this development, that would be my first point of contention. Is just from the get-go, it's a false premise to develop on public park land, and I think we need to preserve our public park land. And then, you know, there's the other thing that we have a business, and we're just two guys with two young kids that had a dream. And you know, believed in Belfast, and we're trying to make a go of it. It's, you know, it's going okay. You know, we had a good summer. We're open for the winter. It's not going so good. We're paying our bills. We're staying afloat. You know. Anyway, big fans of Belfast. Me and Rob. Certainly one of the most beautiful golf courses on the island. And, you know, it's just a great park, great campground, and always a great vibe. I really have lost a lot of respect for Mark Booth and the board lately, you know. Last May, was it May, June? Mark Booth got up here at your meeting and said that the Croft House was full of asbestos right before our tourist season. Got up and lied. You lied, didn't you, Mark?
I told you what I was told.
Yeah. Who told you?
And if you could keep the comments.
Anyway, at the same time that he was lying about asbestos in the Croft House, there was the Historical Society already had a report in hand saying that there was no asbestos in the Croft House. So, I really don't know. Like, you can't believe a word he says. You can't believe anything they say. He asked me to be on the steering committee for the Wellness Center, and it was the biggest joke. I was never so ashamed to be part of something, to be a part of that subcommittee, because it didn't go anywhere. we need to embrace unity and, you know, come together as a community, you know, and he's all about divisiveness and just ruining our community, ruining our parkland. And I think that people need to stand up for themselves and stand up to bullies who choose to develop our parkland and ruin our community. And to any prospective tourism operators who want to invest in Belfast, I'd say, do not do it. As long as Mark Booth is with the Community Development Corporation, whatever it's called, it's not elected. You just, whoever agrees with Mark gets on the board, and there's no oversight. And is there going to have an annual general meeting this year? Yeah? Yeah. We'll see how much you're spending. All right. Anyway, I think I've said my piece. Just want to say that I love Belfast. I love our business, and I'm opposed to development of parklands.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, man.
Let me make a couple of comments.
I don't know if Mark or Barry wants to respond.
Michelle,
Can I just ask a question to the two gentlemen?
Could you
or a
come
few
up to the
questions?
table so we can get you on the mic?
I'm Michelle McKenna, just a resident of the community.
welcome.
Thank you. I just had a few questions. Have you considered are there other locations? Do you have any other land available? My concern, as a lifetime resident of Belfast, is I don't particularly believe a low-income rental, or a rental, a high-income rental for that matter, any rental is appropriate beside a historic pioneer cemetery. It is parkland, and I don't think, again, personal, that housing developments belong in parks. So I'm wondering, is there any other, do you have a second choice, or is it just the one location?
We had another location that wasn't ours, that we were looking to try and buy, and that's done.
Okay. Is that something,
It's not out of our hands, it's nothing to do with us now.
so as far as public input,
Yep.
I suspect there'll be a lot of other residents that will feel
I'm sure there will be.
similar to my
Yep.
concerns of the location.
Yep.
The need for housing, absolutely, we do need it, but I don't think that's the right location for sure. And I'm wondering if, have you, either of you or anyone on the board, been a landlord before, and do you know what that entails? I'm really surprised that the BCDC wants to get into
We
the
don't
role
want
of
to, we
landlord.
don't want to be a landlord. We don't want to be a landlord.
Are they not going to be rentals?
They are going to be rentals, but we are not going to be the landlord. Instead, we would establish a separate entity under CMCH, who are landlords, that would manage the property, not us.
I see. Okay,
We
well,
just do-
thanks
it's
for
just
clarifying.
development. It's just development.
And certainly, I mean, you know, I don't think, as we said, like, nothing is carved in stone.
Exactly.
And I would love to find another location. You know, we would all love to find another location. So if there's an opportunity for that, we can certainly continue to explore it.
So will there be a public meeting? Do you have plans of a public meeting where people can voice their support and or concern on the location and the development itself?
Once we've made application, if we get approved for funding, and they say, yeah, then yes. Because right now we don't even know if it can be done,
Right.
because we have to have a survey done. So we need money to do the survey. Survey says it can, survey says it can't, that's that question answer. If it says it can, then there'll be a public consultation.
Okay. Questions? Thank you for answering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, Helge has,
Thanks, Michelle.
I do have a couple comments that I want to make about this. With nothing on agreement or is irrelevant, but the land is proposed for they have proposed to put the housing on, it's not parkland. The only parkland there is those, and we changed it to Cotton Trust, and that is including the Lord Selkirk Park itself.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
You're aware of that, so
Yes.
it's okay. And the second one is that when we established BCDC initially, one of the founding principles was written into our Constitution at the time, was that we would never be in any kind of competition with any private enterprise within the Belfast municipality. Because as a not-for-profit, we were able to access funding, which was on far more generous terms than any private entrepreneur would be able to do that with their own money. And the third thing is, if you want, I can sit down and talk with you, but prior to me leaving the BCDC board, which I did 2.5 years ago, we had examined debated this idea of a housing project because we could see the need. We put it on hold because of Confederation Construction doing the project across from Mills Lodge. But at the time, I did a kind of a land inventory of my own, and I identified 3 possibles. What I dealt with the 3 most common or the most suitable locations for a housing project, and it was not the one down the park.
And were those lands that were owned by the
They were all owned by private individuals, but one of them actually offered the land, the prime location, that I felt was the prime location anyway, but we dropped the whole thing because of the fact that the Gillis Lodge and A.J. Matthew were getting involved, and we did not want to get into any competition with them at the time, so we just dropped the project, and I stopped. And then I resigned from the board.
Okay, Sherry?
Yeah, so I agree, we have a housing issue here in Belfast, but this unexpected conversation just kind of leads back to our presentation tonight, and based on some comments, that all our land is really valuable. And we have people tonight talk about parkland and natural areas and how important they are for building community. And so having an official plan and zoning bylaws that incorporate that when development starts to come along is really important. And it has to be part of the conversation because people are bringing it up now, you know, like the gentleman from Well Pines and stuff, like they get it. And I know other people here get it too. So I just wanted to say that this unexpected conversation tonight just shows how important our official plan is and the zoning bylaws that can go with it. So, because things are gonna happen.
We're very vulnerable right now.
Yes, yes. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thanks, Sharon.
Barry and Mark, is there funding that you are able to access as a community corporation that the municipality isn't able? You might not know that.
I don't know that. I don't know.
Okay. I'm just wondering, you know, you talked about working with the municipality, you know, if there is possibly a better area that might solve our housing crisis, works to your development plans, that possibly we could work with too. You know, if there is some private land that we might be able to acquire or access, or, you know, if we could possibly come together. I know it's a lot of work and we've got a lot of work on our plate, but, you know, if that might be a solution.
I'm pretty sure that the municipality is not going to get involved in any kind of land development. It's a complex business that is not for the faint of heart. Trust me, I was in it for a lot of years.
Basically, the position that the municipality is in at the moment would allow us to help promote information exchanges of any projects that are happening, whether it happens to be BCDC or WIDAC or Historical Society or whatever. So the municipality has the means to be able to use our website and our Facebook and all that kind of stuff to promote interaction between residents and business or not-for-profits. In regards to the purchase and or co-management of land, the municipality cannot even broach the subject until we have an official plan and development bylaw completed and in place. And then within that official plan and development bylaw, it would lay out the rules about whether the municipality could even be involved in that. And that would have to also be in line with the provincial legislation. So because the official plan and development bylaw is at least 1.5 years away before it comes into force, this project is going to be well on its way before that happens. So in this instance, what we can do, because we've already been invited to help the information exchange, for example, comments that we've heard tonight, like we can end up getting the email address or information. If we're gathering comments, we can pass them on. We can also encourage people to pass on the comments to you to help inform your discussions. You had said there was a number of things that you were researching, the models of the homes, for example. I know that the different manufacturers, they may have different photos of what that could look like if it's option number 1 or 2 or 3. You know, oftentimes when you are presented with a neighborhood, what does the neighborhood look like? Is it a cul-de-sac? Is it, like you talked about, possible barriers around it? It could be a tree barrier, it could be fencing, whatever it is. But those things are brought in front of the public so that they can have an opinion to help you inform your decision going forward. I know because of the position we are in right now, we don't have an official plan or bylaw at the moment, so you are dealing directly with the province. Because you're dealing directly with the province, we can try and help facilitate information flow to the residents of RMB and or getting feedback both to and from. If that's does that sound good to you?
It's about all we can do.
Appreciate it, very much appreciate it.
Yeah. So maybe afterwards we'll confirm with you. We will make a spot on our website that talks about the project that you're doing, that we're encouraging people to provide you with feedback. Here's where you can provide it to, that sort of thing. So we'll confirm that information with you this week.
Perfect.
Sound good?
Yep.
Incidentally, I don't know if we're timed out or not, but if you look back far enough on our resolutions from the council years ago, we made the determination that we would not get involved in the development business. But that was what the Belfast Community Development Corporation, and then we set up these Wood Islands and Area Development Corporation to act as a development arm for municipalities and applications for funding.
In this case, we're not considering that at the moment, so we don't even have to bring that into, but there is no legislation on the books with the Municipal Government Act that states that, so that may have been an old resolution, but it's not in force at the moment.
And so, how do you want people to contact you? Would you like people to go directly to Board of Directors?
I would
or-
probably send we have a website, we have an email address.
Okay.
Just send it to the email office.
Yeah, and we'll get all that information so that
I can send you all
announce it to
that.
the public.
Yeah, I will send that to them, just email, just gather it by email.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay,
Appreciate you coming
Yeah,
and letting
thank
us
you
know.
for coming.
No, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adoption of the November 15th, 2023 council meeting minutes. Previously distributed and all changes were incorporated. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes of the November 15th meeting. Approved by Billy,
I'll second.
second by Catherine. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion carried.
Lost council.
We lost council.
We,
That's okay, we can carry on.
business arising from the November 15th, 2023 council meeting minutes. Already addressed in today's agenda as no other previous items. Next is our CAO report.
Thank you very much. Basically, we are 9 months into our financial plan and budget. There had been a few changes that have happened basically between October and January that will affect our budget at the end of the, or not the budget, but our end result, our bottom line at the end of this fiscal year. I will be going over all those things during our budget sessions. You'll notice that there's a section on this agenda that gives notice to the people or the residents of RMB to let them know that there's going to be 2 public meetings. The first one will happen in what's the date on it?
21st of February.
21st of February, and then there's also one in March, mid-March to talk about the budget and financial plan. So all those things will be discussed, and we will be going over it line by line. But other than the things that council already knows about, how it affected the budget, other than that, everything is on track as per our budget and expenditures. I did want to mention that right now our reserve savings, GICs, is totaling $66,000. It's currently made up of $25,000 that is in the expansion reserve, $5,000 for the emergency preparedness reserve, the second warming center generator reserve, and then there's the remaining. So during the budget session, we will be asking council to commit or designate to the full amount to something, whether it be to the budget, whether it be to a project or a reserve. But all that will be done during the budget session that we're going to come up with. Any other questions on the financial part of my report?
My memory is wrong, but I thought we had this RMB expansion reserve. I thought we had made a decision to reserve $25,000 for a warming, to turn this into a warming center that would be done through the Wood Islands Community Development Corporation.
No. So what it was is we established, originally we talked about an amount to put toward that, but what was decided on by council is that we would start at $5,000.
Okay, I'm wrong. I thought we designated.
Yeah, and actually, just to give you some advance notice, later on we'll be talking about, we were actually able to get funding for an emergency generator that will be able to handle this whole compound. That generator is going to be gifted from, or funded from the province to the tune of $137,000. And the RMB share of that will be about 11,000. So right now there's 5,000. When the budget discussion comes in, we'll be asking that some of this amount that's remaining, 7,000, be put toward the second warming center generator reserve, and that will actually pay for the commitment of the 11,000-ish money for that warming center generator. So at the end of this process, once it's fully installed, RMB will actually have 2 fully functioning emergency warming centers. Now, PEI EMO, Emergency Measures Organization, will only allow us to operate one at a time during an emergency. So, for example, if there was a fuel spill here in this area here, then the Belfast Rec Center, which is the primary warming center, would be used. But let's say there was a fuel spill at the Belfast Rec Center, then the Wood Island warming center would be used. So in either case, we have a warming center available to the residents in an emergency, another Fiona, whatever, at one side of our municipality or another, and we would, depending on the emergency, choose which one is required. So we're in an enviable position that way as far as municipalities go. But anyway, that'll be discussed in detail next, in February, when we have our first budget meeting, and I'll be detailing all that information. Okay, if nothing else on the financial, then I also have the other matters that we've been dealing, or I've been dealing with. You had heard there was a wellness center issue. Basically, at one point there was discussion about RMB working with BCDC and also with the Belfast Rec Center, because they were looking at a plan that might look at a wellness center for the Belfast area. RMB was involved because we also provide money to both of those organizations. So we thought it was best to try and cooperate as a group. However, that said, right now that it's on hold because of other things that are going on, and that project is not proceeding at present. But we'll keep an eye on it, and once it is, then we'll continue to follow up on it. Second thing is, or item C on this is the warming center MOUs. As I mentioned, we'll now have 2 warming centers. We have started, remember we talked about it last time, where we're coming up with a memorandum of understandings to operate the emergency warming center in an emergency. And we will have one with the Belfast Rec Center, and we'll have one with the Wood Island Association. So as we talked about last week, we also realized that we need some volunteers to work with us in an emergencies. So to date, we've been successful in, so if an emergency happens on a Monday or any Monday during an emergency, Friends of Iona have completed a memorandum of understanding where they will provide 4 people for that day to help us with soup and sandwiches and operating the warming center. Additionally, on Tuesdays, the Bell River Women's Institute have volunteered to be our Tuesday representatives. You may remember that council has taken the Wednesday slot, and now we're looking at filling the other slots. We don't have anybody else confirmed at the moment, but we do have the people that we're also looking into is the Wood Islands Women's Institute, Bog, who we just heard from, BCDC, Belfast Historical, Belfast Lions Club, and possibly others. Those groups we are going to approach to see if they have the ability or resources to be able to help out in an emergency. And like I said, we'll be asking if they can pick a designated day that they could provide 4 people to help out in an emergency. So that's what we'll be doing over the next few months to try and get not only all 7 days covered, but then we'll also try and look for a couple alternates as well, just in case something comes up where that group's not available. So far the warming center MOU project is going very well. Any questions?
Presumably the MOU kind of lays out what the expectation of the volunteer group
Yes.
is. I'm wondering if maybe if we're looking to gain some interest, if we might put out like the template of like what it is, it would need to have any personal information of whatever we would put in there, but kind of like a blank one that could lay out what the expectations are, so it's like 4 people. Now, I'm sure we had this conversation, I just don't remember it. Alright, is the volunteer group also responsible for providing food?
No.
Okay.
RMB,
So, like,
basically
some
the
of that
MOU will basically describe that we just need them to show up
Yeah,
2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon,
yeah,
that they will be making soup and sandwiches and passing them out to people, showing them where the washrooms are, showing them where the showers are, how to plug in their phone, that sort of thing.
yeah.
But RMB will be responsible to make sure that the food is there. We have monies in our budget that we set there last time. By the time we are at March 31, that emergency preparedness reserve, which currently sits at 5,000, unless we have a Fiona between now and March 31, there'll then be $10,000. You'll remember that the 5,000 we budgeted last year will then go into that reserve. So at the end of this fiscal, there will be 10,000 there, which is more than enough to get us started. Because what happens is we buy the food, PEI EMO reimburses us with that food and or whatever other costs. We've had both facilities inspected by both Red Cross and the PEI EMO. And they've both been categorized as warming centers.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking maybe what we could do is maybe put out like a social media post looking for volunteers, because we don't necessarily need it to be a established group. And 4 individuals in the community could join in together to take
Friends,
over
the Friends of Iona, are they an established group? They're just, yeah.
There's 4 people, right?
Yeah.
Could
So, but maybe we could put something on Facebook that talks about like what it is that we're doing.
Yes, Ashley and I talked about that, and the plan A is to first look at groups. And because there is quite a few groups within RMB, we're going to look at groups first, but failing that, then we would go out and get a list. It's certainly much easier to administer on our part if it's a group. If I contact Friends of Iona, then suddenly that group gets kicked in.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
like that could be something that can
Right.
be done for with any 4 people that want to just.
Absolutely.
volunteer. They just.
That is
Come up with a
correct.
cool name, you're good.
As a matter of fact, now that you mentioned,
Different Iona.
that's how the Friends of Iona established.
Yeah.
They had said, hey, well, we have a bunch of people here in Iona that could do it. We'll just do a group called Friends of Iona, and we have the contact for that person, and they will make sure we have 4 people
Okay.
from Iona. So you might get a call.
I might.
Yes, Tricia.
Is there any issues with like food handling license if they're going to be expected to make soups and salads, and what is the repercussions on that?
We've already, first of all, the facilities have to be rated. Both facilities, the Belfast Rec Center and here, upstairs is the kitchen. There's a licensed kitchen in both.
But the people making
Right,
that are in
so
these
then there's been rules of operating laid out that if we're only sticking to giving away sandwiches, soup and sandwiches, we're not cooking per se. Campbell's is you open the can and you pour it in and you throw some water in, so
Okay.
I don't think they consider that cooking,
No.
but
And a lot of the food comes in by donation, like the Women's Institute was bringing in muffins and other cookies and stuff like that.
And
so
or
we
Tim
weren't
Hortons.
actually doing any of the actual cooking. It was
Right.
just-
There's probably still something about the food safety.
there is.
There is,
But I
yeah.
think that like if you have 1 person on site, then that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've had that discussion with PEI EMO and Red Cross already. There is the staff of RMB are the ones that are oversee the volunteer groups. So anything that's required, then it basically goes through us, and then we make sure it happens.
Okay. I have it in case that's helpful.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
It is helpful.
I think Catherine knows it. No, Okay, never mind.
I'm not getting it again.
No, it's okay.
I'm joking, I will if I have to.
And then the next D talks about the second warming center, and I already reported on that, so I don't think I need to say anything more about that, other than to express our gratitude to the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, which is ACOA. They're paying for the generator, and RGI, which is the regional, which is the Rural
Growth Initiative.
Rural Growth Initiative of PEI. They're covering the installation and HST, GST portions, and then we only have to cover 10,000 plus for that whole thing. On that, because of the funding that we are applying to ACOA and RGI for, we now need a motion to complete the funding applications for both ACOA and the RGI funding. The motion would read, to authorize RMB to apply and complete funding applications for the emergency generator through the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency and for the installation and setup of the generator through the Rural Growth Initiative funding application. And then we would need a mover and a seconder, and it voted on. We would then pass that motion on to both organizations. That would allow them to complete the applications and provide us with the funding for the generator.
What happens if RGI doesn't come through?
Right now, those two organizations are asking for the motion so that they can.
Okay.
Every indication that we have is both organizations are going to give us the funding. However, let's say ACOA gives us the money. We already know we're getting the generator from ACOA.
Yeah.
They just needed this resolution.
Yeah.
And RGI hasn't given us the official. However, if we can't get it installed and it's just sitting on the ground, then we're not getting the generator. So
There's no risk of like any commitment of funds that if one funding doesn't work out, then suddenly we're on the hook for it.
no.
Okay.
So
Someone want to put a motion on the floor?
Moved by
Tricia. And
Second by Lynn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay, progress report and of the annexation subcommittee, presented by Chairperson Councillor Bryson.
Okay, so everyone would have got a copy of our updated report, and you guys should have one in your package up there. And I believe it's also on the website, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So the subcommittee has been meeting regularly every 3 weeks for the last couple of months. So basically we formed the committee. We're currently actively working through a list of all the pros and the cons, both for going forward with annexation and the pros and cons for not going through with annexation. We're hoping to have a committee decision reached on each of the individual communities to bring forward to council for the February meeting. So at that meeting, we would then provide our final report with our final recommendations, whether or not we're recommending to go forward with the annexation process, and then we'd be asking for a vote on that. So there's a whole list of the progress we've made to date, but basically what we've done, we've identified 4 key areas that we want to look at. The maps are available on our website. We've acquired all the fire maps pertaining to those areas and surrounding those areas. And we've also discussed with the fire marshal what the implications to RMB would be for that annexation process. We've identified all of the individual communities within those 4 options and all of the infrastructure currently within. We've decided which areas we are not looking at for annexation, and so those would include all of Murray River, Murray Harbor, certainly into Three Rivers, and higher up into the Vernon River. Yeah, we have acquired all of the maps. That took a lot of time for Bob, and Bob's created all of the Excel matrix charts.
Well, Ashley helped us out.
Or Ashley, gotta give credit where credit's due. To keep us organized on all of these. And and I should mention too, so at our last meeting, we met with the mayor of West River, Helen Smith McPhail, and so they've recently completed the process of amalgamation. So I believe, was it 5? Yeah, 5 municipalities came together to create the municipality of West River. So she was able to provide us kind of where things have gone well with that process, things that were left out. So that was really beneficial. And we've also opened communication lines with Three Rivers, Murray River, the harbor, basically all of our surrounding municipalities, so we can work with them to identify what areas they want to take on as well. So like I say, we should be coming forward from the committee with a recommendation next month for public discussion as well. So if anybody has any questions, concerns about that, more than happy to hear this.
I think it's important to let people know that this recommendation that's coming forward is a recommendation from the committee to council just to open up the annexation process. It's not to say that we should annex this place or that, because the government of PEI has a whole 2 to 3 or 4 year process that could take place where you go step by step. This is what you do if you're going to do the annexation exercise. It is a public process, and it will take, if everything goes really well, you could probably get it done within 15 months to 2 years. And if it goes as normal, it's anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So it is a long process. The recommendation that comes forward next month will merely be to council as to whether we should proceed to a annexation process or not.
Mm-hmm. And just to remind everyone too why we're doing this process. So it's really, we're working proactively based on information we received from the province. And so we're doing this to protect ourselves as much as to protect the areas that we may annex, so that they have the decision whether they'd like to become us or ultimately join in with another municipality. So.
Yeah, to Catherine's point, what the province is looking for in general is to municipalize the whole province. If you look at the areas of RMB, Three Rivers, and the Murrays, there's a number of communities within that realm and around RMB that are all unincorporated. So at some point, the province is going to say, okay, all these, you're going to be designated a municipality. We thought we'd be proactive and consult with those municipalities to see what fits best within RMB's rural mandate. And as Catherine said, try and be proactive in this approach rather than the province telling us who's gonna be where.
Was it the province or FPEIM that had the number 15?
Yeah, so those projections were from the Federation of PEI Municipalities. The official word from the province is that they have not drawn up any map. Whether or not they have, they won't tell us. But yes, the FPIM does have I guess, if not a map, at least areas
You
in
don't
mind.
have a map.
Yeah, okay.
They said it's based on nothing other than an idea.
Yeah. But the idea we have heard, just so everyone's clear, is that would be basically Three Rivers, Belfast, and the Murrays combining to create a massive municipality. So we're trying to prevent that as best we can. Okay, that's it for that one.
Anybody with any questions? Thank you, Catherine.
It's me.
Number 11.
Code of conduct training, the deadline is March 31st of 2024. Administrative Assistant Ashley Peschuk.
Okay, so the call was put out by Municipal Affairs to have RMB Council complete Code of Conduct training by March 31st, 2024. We are well ahead of schedule, the scheduled deadline, with just one person left to complete it, and I was made aware that she's working on it. She was working on it today. So thank you, everyone, and really good work on getting that done.
And you should also know that all of the RMB staff have taken that same code of conduct course as well.
Is there a pass or fail to that course?
I think so.
I never got my marks back.
Yeah.
I better check that.
Okay, you do that. May have to go upgrading.
I had an issue with the code of conduct training. I've been in contact with them, and it was in regards to, which I feel they've stepped way outside their boundaries, and it is as far as social media, and that's absolutely 100% not right. Because it led you to believe that anything you said was, as a representative of the council, whether you were representing it or not, and that you couldn't do it. It just seemed to me that there was something wrong with it. I think it's a good example. When they interviewed Garth for that newspaper article at the Guardian, or not the Guardian, but at the Graphic, and in it, he made the comment that the best thing could happen would be for Mr. Lips to lose his seat after this whole thing would be stopped. Now, he's got every right to say that. He can say it as much as he wants. But according to the way that they describe it to me, that is against the code of conduct thing, because even though he stopped talking as an individual, in this case he was, it appeared that he was speaking for the municipality. And I think they've got to have to change that thing. Particularly where they said social media. Now, I write a lot of letters to the editor, and they're published in both the Guardian and in the Graphic. And quite often I write on very contentious subjects, and I'm not representing the municipality, I'm representing my own views. And they're going to have to clarify that.
That's a good point, Jim. They did talk about a number of areas that become gray areas. Social media is by nature a gray area because it changes on an ongoing basis. However, I did want to thank all of council members for doing it, even if there was a problem with some of the provisions or interpretations. I did confirm with Municipal Affairs that the Code of Conduct legislation is something that gets reviewed annually. So as you provide your comments, Jim and others, the next iteration, so I expect to hear a call every single year to say, time to update your Code of Conduct training with the latest version of whatever their legislation is. So I did want to thank everybody for completing it so that we don't have any problem with our operations.
Number 12.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. 2024-2025 community grants called process presented by admin Ashley Fester.
Okay, so the call for community grants proposals and applications are now on the website. Notifications have also been posted to RMB Facebook page and at various bulletin boards around the municipality. Applicants have until noon on Thursday, March 7th for submission. In addition to the public call, anyone receiving a grant last year will also receive or has received an application package by email. Once an application is submitted, it is checked over to ensure eligibility. Eligibility now includes the requirement of a completed summary report which describes how previous grant funds were used. The Community Grant Committee is scheduled to meet on Friday, March 8th for recommendation, and a final decision of council will be made on Wednesday, March 20th. And that's it for me.
Good, thank you for moving that,
Do we have a time,
date, because I'm.
time for them meetings?
Yeah, the times are posted on the website and on our Facebook page.
Okay.
So
March 8th though is a 5
It's at
p.m.
5.
meeting, because it's typically a bit longer meeting. It's gonna start at 5 p.m. People do have an opportunity, while it's not required and not necessary, because council will have the complete application package in front of them. However, some groups like to come before the committee just to give their pitch. They have 5 minutes to give their pitch to say why it's so important that they get the money. After that happens, then the committee discusses all the applications and provides a recommendation that goes to council on March 20th. And then that is regular council time at 7 p.m. on March 20th.
Thank you.
Oh, and for information of everybody, all of the people that received funding last year, those people did provide a summer report for this year, with the exception of one. So that one will not be eligible for funding this time. And that'll be made known at the meeting, at the committee meeting.
Okay, completion of the official plan and development bylaw presented by CAO Bob Brooks.
Thank you very much.
We talked so much about this, can we have a kind of reading?
Yes, I'll keep it really brief. I will, yes. Basically, just to let you know that we talk about the importance of doing it. The council's decided they want to carry on. Basically, once we've completed the budget session, we'll then be able to move on to doing or getting into the official plan and development bylaw discussions, where council has the ability to adjust the documents that are there now, and or bring forward suggestions or whatever.
And the public as well.
And the public, yes, all this is public. The expectation is that we're gonna try and have everything done through the public realm and completed by December of this fiscal year, or this year, sorry. And then then it goes to the province for approval. Now, originally I thought, 2 or 3 months to the province for approval. I was later told that, well, this one community, it took them 9 months to,
But we're not gonna have mistakes.
But we're not gonna have that, yeah. If everything goes well, then it's expected that the official plan and legislation would go into effect or come into force on April 1 of 2025. However, if it takes the province longer than that, then it would probably be the next April after that. Other than that, we'll start up the discussions again in April.
Okay, Catherine has a question.
Sorry, Jim, I don't do anything brief. So, I just wanted to update everyone because we did have that discussion with the mayor of West River. So, there were 3 key points that she passed on to us that had been specifically missed in their official plan and development bylaws. So the first was shale pits, which Billy and Garth said that we have quite a few in the municipality, so we need to make sure those are included. The other was specifications around private roads, specifically new developments. There was some liabilities that came up around correct me, but I think it was municipal requirements for snow clearing and things like that on private roads versus public roads. And then the biggest key of advice she had for us is just more detail versus less. So a key example from her municipality is that they left out apartment buildings throughout the entire official plan and bylaws because, like us, they're a very rural municipality. They have no water, sewer. They just assumed that no one would want to develop a giant 10-story apartment building in their municipality, and because that was specifically left out, it left room for developers to make applications, and the municipality had a lot of struggles trying to not have a giant municipality with water and sewer put into their municipality. So she said the more detail, the better. Make sure everything, all the loopholes are closed.
So the official plan is the general vision document, and the development bylaw is where all the detail, and make sure the two match up, but make sure that the development bylaw has a lot of detail, just like Catherine mentioned.
I think it would be a good idea for all of the councillors to read over the West River Community Official Plan. And I read it over 2 or 3 times, made a series of notes on it. And the only thing that I will make note of is that their municipality has 1 residence per 13 acres. Our municipality has 1 residence per 200 acres. So there's a lot of the stuff that they would, and I noticed a lot of maize and shells in their official plan.
I just had 2 other questions now that we are, opening things back up. So obviously Photan was part of, they created our initial first and second draft. Was anyone else consulted? Like, we had Bog come in tonight, but to make those 2 drafts, were any other community groups or?
Yes, so as part of the process for the official plan, Photan had reached out to, they provided a list of a number of community groups that they reached out to for comments. We also reached out through the website and through the meetings, encouraging people to send comments. We did receive quite a lot of comments. Photan then took those comments back, put it in a matrix. They provided a matrix that was somewhat detailed, overly detailed. So just about got it simplified somewhat. Simplified somewhat, and then that'll be on the website as well. So basically, all the input that we received from residents and groups and all the consultations that they had, as well as their official consultations, they were meeting with municipal affairs and lands, and so all the comments that were received are reflected in that matrix.
Okay. I guess my other one is, like, obviously I know it was put on the website, but I guess if you don't know that it's on the website, you don't know to respond. So I wanted, just because it's in my mind and we've been talking about reconciliation, so I just wanted to ask if the Native Council or if any of the Aboriginal groups specifically have been consulted or should be asked for input.
I do not know, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But we can check.
Okay.
And we can certainly provide that information to, now that we have contact, we can provide that information to them to make sure they are aware as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I get a copy of the detailed matrix?
Yeah, Yeah, I just, I'm not quite,
But I don't need you, I don't need the one that you're working on.
oh, the one that they originally sent
Yeah,
us?
I'd be happy to take whatever
Sure.
they send.
Yeah, I can send
I
that.
wouldn't mind just getting a head start and looking through stuff.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. Events and social media report.
Okay.
Presented by Ashley. That's John.
Me again. So, hello to everyone watching the live stream. Tonight's been a lot of views. I think this is probably the most views we've ever had on the live stream. At one point we were up to 20 people. Now we're at 12. So, hello everyone.
Sound system working good?
Yeah, I think the audio, I'm sitting beside the speaker tonight, so I'm hoping that helps a little bit.
And the speakers help.
I think so, yeah. Okay, so I just want to speak to two events. Carrie White, who works at RMB, is a bookkeeper, we put together two events, and they're both happening on Saturday, January 27th, here at Wood Islands Market. They're not RMB events, but I thought I'd speak to them anyway. The first is the first ever Belfast Craft Collective, where people can join us for a coffee from 10 to 1 and maybe work on some kind of craft project that they are, that they've been stewing on or, brewing over for a while, and then maybe they're stuck and they need some inspiration. It's just a nice chance to get together with some people and do something fun. This is also a good time if you have like art supplies or craft supplies that are collecting dust. Maybe you want to trade those and get something else. So the second event is the same day, and it's a ukulele group session. Dennis Wells will be leading the group, and we're really lucky to have him. The event's $5 and it starts at 2 and goes to 3:30. It's all skill levels are welcome. If you want to reserve a spot, please send me an email. And we have graciously been able to borrow some of the ukuleles from the Belfast Historical Society. So if you don't have one and you still want to give it a try, let me know. And thank you to Doris McDonald for dropping off the ukuleles tonight. That was very nice. And to Audrey Schilleber for helping me, point me in the right direction. So yeah, if you're interested in either of these events, give me an email at noplacelikeHomepei@gmail.com. And that's it. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. New business for the agenda. Item A, CPHO. Councillor Bryson. Not ready yet?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just trying to keep it all organized. Okay, so way back on December 13th, I took part in a consultation between community groups. Municipalities were also invited, but I was the only municipal person that attended. So essentially it was for an organization called Live Well PEI. This is a branch of the Chief Public Health Office. So basically they've acquired funding from a few different federal and provincial agencies, and what they're trying to do is work proactively to prevent the health issues before they're happening, in a way to burden the healthcare system. So certainly this isn't something that's going to lessen our emergency waits today, but hopefully 5-10 years from now it will be making a difference. So they're still in the consultation phase. I believe this was the second meeting, but it was the first that I attended. There's 6 key areas that they've identified that they want to work on, and I've got them listed in the report available, but access to open data. So essentially this would be for anyone trying to put out a grant proposal for a wellness initiative. So it would be a portal that people could come, municipalities or these community groups could access just to have different information. collections of projects that have worked, and so these would be projects that have worked on PEI throughout the Maritimes, perhaps even the world. An online grant management system, specifically for healthy well-being initiatives, information about community-specific needs. They discussed the possibility of having a health promotion newsletter or a bulletin, and wellness grant promotion. So they do currently have a website up and running that's accessible for municipalities or different community groups. And yeah, it's essentially just to find different grant initiatives and different information. So if there's another one, I will attend, and otherwise it's just for information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Number B, letter B, Community Pantry. Councillor Bryson.
So I'm going to read specifically what Bonnie Shea-Pillier, who's the executive director for the pantry, sent off to me for a report. So she said, as expected, December was a very busy month, but the donations, both food and monetary, was tremendous. We were able to purchase turkey and hams and also provide all the veggies and fixings for Christmas dinner. Usage is still up so far this month, which again is expected. We've still been getting a lot of help from throughout the community. Randy Visser donated and installed a new door, so the building itself is better insulated and a little bit easier to keep warm. The pantry purchased new shelving, and the door and the shelving together makes the building look much brighter, and it's able to be kept more tidy. We expect usage to continue being high over the winter months. And she also wanted me to highlight that we're having our annual general meeting on Sunday, January 21st, so next Sunday at 7 p.m. at the UIG Community Center. And anyone is welcome to attend, whether you're from a community organization or just wanted to attend as an individual. Oh, and also thank you to everyone who continues to donate. I know I've picked up so much from the office, specifically from Bob's wife, and monetary donations from the Women's Institute. So thank you, because it's a community initiative helping our community, and it's very needed. So.
Thank you, Catherine. Update from Belfast Home and School.
Okay, that's that's been changed.
Oh.
Deputy Mayor Doherty said she didn't have an update this month.
Meeting was moved to next week.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So no update. So as mentioned at the when we mentioned on item 3, I thought I would use that time specifically. As you know, we have a number of counselors that are attending various meetings. And as a matter of fact, there's another one that's going to be item H here, talking about the Millennium Pledge. So I thought it was a good time to remind everybody that as a counselor, if you're going into a meeting, it's probably a good idea to let them know that you are a representative of City Council, that if there's public information, that you will then report it at a council meeting, just to let the people of the community know what's going on. So it's a good idea to let them know that you're a member of council and that you plan to do that. The reason it's important to do that at that time is because if the group says, well, we don't really want all our stuff out in the public, that's the time for them to tell you, and then of course you would do accordingly. You wouldn't report it if they don't want you to report it. But generally, we've had it a number of places on the agenda already where a counselor will attend and then they'll talk about what's going on in that organization. What's also important is that as a member of council, that you not say the position of council is unless council has actually had the discussion and made a position on whatever. If that's the case, then it's more than appropriate, and it would normally be mentioned at the council meeting that please pass this motion on to the group that you're attending, this particular position. However, to date, there have been no positions discussed by council to make. So if you're there to listen and participate in the meeting and then report back of what's going on, then that's great. Then the community knows that much more about what's going on in all the areas that we deal with in our municipality. So because we're now getting into quite a few different meetings, I thought this was a great time to mention it. Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Federation of PEI Municipalities update.
Okay, so I attended my first meeting last month as a board member of the Federation of PEI Municipalities. So I just wanted to bring back some key points that pertain or might affect us. So the FPIM is currently looking into a new insurance option that will be available to all municipalities on the island. I believe we're making a vote on it tomorrow. And so if we decide to go forward with that, then I'll bring it back to us. But it could potentially save us some money. So I thought that was good news. Dates are set for the 2024 annual meeting. So it's going to take place this year on April 29th at the Rod Charlottetown. The semi-annual meeting will take place on October 19th in Abram Village at the Village Musical. And the 2025 semi-annual meeting was also booked, and so that was booked ahead of time for October 18th, 2025 at the Eastern Kings Community Center. The FPIM is currently seeking legal advice for two things that have been in the news. So the recent change to the Renewable Energies Act regulation, so that, just to remind everyone, happened in, was it Eastern Kings? Do you remember? Is the windmills. Was that Eastern Kings? Or, yeah. So what happened is the province said, the municipality decided they didn't want the development. The province came back and said, too bad, you're getting the development. So we're just kind of putting out feelers to see if they were even allowed to do that legally, and just kind of what precedent that sets for future implications to any future projects or decisions that the municipality might have, any municipality might have. We've also hired a professional negotiator to discuss the overpayment of tax credits, and so luckily that didn't affect us. And then the final thing that's been going on there is President Bruce McDougall and Mayor Steve Ogden from Stratford attended the FCM Advocacy Days in Ottawa, and it was well attended by municipal leaders across the country, as well as our premiers and local MPs. And there's some welcome news coming out of that meeting, that they're working on having our gas tax money doubled. So that would be really positive. So I've got another meeting tomorrow night, and I'll report back next month. That's that.
Okay, Catherine, thank you. Take a deep breath, you're on next.
I know.
Report on the RMB Family Skate.
I think I'm on for the rest. So the family skate. So on Thursday, December 28th, well, actually, it was our Mayor Garth Gillis brought up at one of our annexation meetings about the possibility of holding a family skate because they were having a reduced fee at the rec center. So we were able to purchase a slot on December 28th from 12:30 to 1:30. And we had an estimated 50 participants on the ice and an additional 20 watching on the sidelines. Ashley brought hot chocolate, I brought some homemade cookies. We very greatly underestimated how many people would be attending. I think we had enough for like 10 people. So we ended up purchasing hot chocolate from the canteen. And actually that's the preferred way that the rec center likes to handle those family skates. So just for future reference, so the cost for this event ended up being a total of $130. So it was $100 for the ice rental, and then we ended up paying $30 for hot chocolate from the canteen. But it was a huge success. I know Charlie, you brought your daughter. My kids were out on the ice. Like it was, you were there. You saw how many people were there. So I think we should definitely try to do another one again in the future. I don't know what our budget is looking like, but given that we're
No more next month.
up discussions for our budget, I'd like to suggest that we would add in a line, possibly for free skates.
Already done.
Okay. Free skates in the winter and possibly free swims in the summer from the Belfast pool. So I thought it would be really great initiatives, and so I don't know if we need a motion or,
No, you
or
don't.
what.
It's
but
already
okay.
a discussion item for
Okay.
the budget next month.
Perfect.
Okay.
And a funny story to go with it.
Thanks, Catherine. An update on hunting concern.
You're on pause.
Yes.
But not for
I
long.
can take a drink.
Take a drink. This is not going to take very long. So a few months ago, we had a concerned resident bring up a concern about hunting. There's a lot that went into that concern, but to keep this short tonight, I was hoping that Staff Sergeant Robinson would be here to talk about part of it. So some of the concerns was talking about the trespassing of hunters on property. Property owners have the responsibility if they don't want them on there. The hunters have to go and actually ask permission. If it's a wood lot, they just basically need to have one sign posted at the entrance to the wood lot. And Staff Sergeant was going to talk about that. So yes, there's definitely conversations that I followed up with conservation area officers and of course the RCMP. And at this point, this is a no longer municipal issue, and all concerns can be directed to MLA Compton.
When you say hunting, you're talking trapping as well?
No, there was some trapping, but then further discussion was shooting and whatnot.
It's basically a provincial issue.
Yes, it is. Okay, thank you, Councillor Carter. BCDC, new housing project. We have heard all that.
Yeah, so I can redact that from the thing, but thankfully they were willing to stick with us.
And we have the Selkirk Millennium Club.
Yes, so just before the meeting, past councillor Joanne had sent an invitation. The Selkirk Millennium Club would like to know if somebody from council might be available to go to the Selkirk Millennium Club to give their membership just an update of what's going on in the community with council, you know, what they're doing.
Guest of honor, per se.
Yeah, exactly. Just to give a brief presentation about all the things that we're doing here. I already spoke to Garth, and he cannot confirm at the moment about whether he's available for that date. The date that they're requesting.
May not even be alive at that date.
Is February 21 at 2 p.m. at the where they meet. And if anybody has some availability to give a 10-minute presentation just to talk about what's going on in RMB and council in particular for February 21st at 2 p.m. We're taking names.
I can't.
Yeah, it's in the newsletter.
Sorry, I missed that.
He asked if it was a seniors group.
Yes.
When I think millennial, change.
Yeah.
The opposite.
It's called the Selkirk Millennium Club, and it is a seniors organization.
You can tentatively put me down for that, but I'll make a note right now that I can't do Islander Day. So if anybody wants to take the reins on that.
Okay.
Post offices.
I know. On Islander?
Yeah.
Not federal.
Okay, the notice of 2024-2025 budget and financial plan meetings.
Wait, I had two things.
That is correct. She added the 2024 childcare and
The meeting schedule.
didn't get
the
that
meeting
memo.
schedule.
Sorry, guys. I can't find my notes. I don't know. Did we already, can you remind me, did we already pass the dates for this
Yes.
year?
So it's a
Okay.
requirement for the Municipal Government Act that council has to approve the regular scheduled council meetings for the next year. So typically we'll do it in November or December.
Okay.
And then we post it on the website so people can see when all of the regularly scheduled council dates are.
Okay.
That does not include committee dates, and it does not include special council dates.
Okay. This might not be popular, and it obviously can't be done for this year, but I'd like to table for the next year, so 2025, that we move to at least 1 to 12 meetings throughout the year. And again, I know that might not be popular, but this is a lot.
Yeah.
Because we missed December, we're now going to be here until 11 o'clock. So I would prefer to have an extra meeting throughout the year. So I guess if we could just table that for discussions next year.
You can. We'll make note of that. I should let you know that every year we average 17 to 20 meetings.
Yeah, I just mean like general.
Yeah, I know. So 10 are regular as per MGA. That's what they actually they only require
That's
6.
minimum.
Yeah, they only require 6. But we schedule 10, and we usually have 17.
The last and final topic was school age childcare project. So I was invited to a meeting today with Carolyn Simpson. She's the former director of the Department of Education and Early Years Learning. She's now an advisor and consultant for the province. And also Tina Harvey was on the call as well. She's the former mayor of Kincora, and now she's the CAO of Kincora. So essentially Carolyn has been contracted by the province to determine what's possible for school-age childcare. So I attended this meeting just because I already have childcare on my list of topics that I'm actively trying to find solutions for. So essentially, she's just fact-finding right now. She's trying to find out what the short, medium, and long-term goals of school-age childcare are. She's then going to create an action plan to provide to the province. And then they'll ultimately decide if they want to begin a universal childcare plan, similar to the way they have it for daycares now. So immediately she's just trying to reach out to municipalities to see if there are any municipalities that might be interested in these discussions. So obviously I told her that Belfast is interested in discussing this. So I'm gonna bring it forward to the FPIM and also reach out to some other municipalities to see if they'd like to be in the discussion. But I'll keep everyone updated how this progresses. Again, I don't think we should get overly excited because everything with government takes a long time, but it's just something in the pipelines that might be coming and might potentially provide some more after school and before school care for kids in our municipality. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, notice of the 2024-2025 budget and financial plan meetings.
Thank you very much. So basically, the Municipal Government Act requires the municipality to give official notice, official public notice about budget and financial plan meetings. This year, our two official budget meetings are February 21st and March 20th. So the public is encouraged to either attend the meeting or connect through Facebook. And there's also an opportunity, should anyone wish to make a presentation at any of these council meetings, just let us know. We'll add you to the agenda, or they can supply comments to us by email and get your comments that way. So this is your you've officially been publicly notified.
I really want to encourage people to come out to these kind of meetings, particularly
Yes.
one on February 21st, because we don't have near enough public participation in these things. I was glad to see some people out tonight. We've had more people here tonight than we have in the past, and it was good to hear what they actually think about things.
Yeah.
And I have another question. When it comes to the annual meeting, we used to have, for the budgets, we used to have a vote on everything by the public on each line item in the budget. Is that still the way that it works?
No.
That's the way it should be.
No, it's the way the Municipal Government Act says is that council has the decision on the budget. So it's our requirement to notify the public about the meeting and to get input from, or allow for input of the meetings. To your point, the budget meetings are the best attended meetings that we have. Yep. Because they also include the amounts for the community grants. So most often the public will attend those two meetings in particular. But it is a council decision for the budget. It's the public decision for what councilor they want to elect, so that they make that decision.
So is March 20th, is that the actual date when the budget is voted on by the council?
Actually, what happens is February 21st is first reading, and second reading and passage of the budget, if council is in agreement, will be on March 20th, yes.
And that's open to the public again?
Absolutely.
And they still have the opportunity to comment on items in the budget?
Absolutely.
So it's presented to them on a line item basis?
Yes, line by
Vote
line.
on it, but they understand what every
Line by line, yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?